Let me first say that I'm so thrilled to have Paul Ramondo joining me all the way from Australia. I believe it's only, what, 7 o'clock in the morning over there? It's very early. Okay, now we should be good. It is 7 o'clock in the morning there over Perth time.
Yeah, sorry, can you hear me real quick?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Perfect. Yeah, so just ticked over 7 a.m. It's a nice
Wow.
sunny spring day. It's quite
So
nice outside.
let me first say thank you for getting up and making time to do this so early in the morning.
Always.
Really do appreciate it. One of the things we want to talk about here on Livestream Stars is digital marketing and specifically Facebook advertising. And this is where Paul is a master. Paul is, as we said, joining us all the way from Australia. He's the founder and managing director of Ramondo Media. He specializes in helping entrepreneurs and marketers drive qualified leads to their website using Facebook ads and increasing their total online sales using digital marketing funnels. Paul generated $250,000 in sales in 32 days using Facebook advertising. Wow, that's amazing. And social media, you can find Paul at Paul Ramondo, PaulRamondo. The website is paulramondo.com. And you have ramondomedia.com coming soon. Tell us about that new venture.
So that's just my digital marketing agency. The website's really been the website really should be up, but I've chosen to make more of a conscious, and this is a conscious choice, but I've chosen to make more of a conscious effort and invest a lot more of my time into my other website, which is paulramondo.com, which is where you can learn heaps of cool stuff about digital marketing and Facebook ads.
Oh, cool. So let's start with Facebook advertising right there. I mean, 250K, 251 something, I think it was, or 252,000 in just over a month. Think about that. Driving traffic to your website, is that how you went about doing those sales? Was it through your website, or where were you? What was the conversion that you were measuring in order to get somebody to the point where they were making the sale?
Yeah, so those results are based on a case study, or I wrote a case study which were based on those results, and I was able to achieve those results for one of my clients earlier this year, and my clients in the sports nutrition vertical. And the product that we were selling through, a dedicated website that we built for the campaign that we were running, the product that we were selling was a hybrid product. So it was a mix between an information product, which had heaps of, intellectual value and heaps of utility from a learning perspective, and then it was also a physical product at the same time. So it was that kind of cross section between the two, and that was, it was a price point of around $129 to $149, and we rolled out this really cool strategy, and were able to, over the space of that 32 days, we're able to convert, about $16,000 worth of ad spend into, just over $250,000 of top line sales, which is really, really cool. It was a good result.
Well, that's what's really, impressive about it, is that you're talking about needing to sell at a high volume, right? You're talking about under $150 per item per purchase. So you're not talking about, a high price point and then you just sell a couple and okay, you had a good month and you hit that. You're talking about a lot of sales to get to get that to that 250K level.
That's great.
Is this a process that other people can learn and can replicate? I mean, was this just a great month, or is this something that you have developed in terms of a strategy that you think is applicable in other situations?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, if we're going to talk about results, I think any result, regardless of the field, whether it's digital marketing or, any other field, like they can be replicated if you can work out, exactly what the process was behind it. And I honestly think that, yes, the results that I achieved, whilst they are very, impressive and big numbers and happy good times, like there was just a really methodical, like strategy that went on behind it, which really just valued the customer, or basically the strategy that we rolled out really just made the customer centric in the journey. It wasn't about what we were trying to sell. It was about how we were trying to help the end customer at the end of the day. And I feel like if you can build your marketing messages, and you can build the way in which you sell your products and services, regardless of the vertical that you're in. If you can build the way in which you sell those products and services to your customers in a way that's focused on building that relationship by solving problems first and getting to know that customer before you go and try and ask them to marry you, or in a sense of like getting them to buy your stuff. I think you can have a lot of success because people appreciate that, and people appreciate, being courted and a brand or a business building a relationship with them and then asking them to, buy something from them. So I think, like if you can understand how to build that relationship and solve that problem with your audience before you go and like immediately try and sell something to people, you can have a lot of success, especially online.
What role, if any, does live video and live streaming have in that process for you? Not necessarily that specific case study we were talking about, but just in that process of building the relationship and then selling, has live video had for you?
For sure. I mean, let's so live video wasn't specifically applicable to that, the results that I got in that case study. But if I'm going to be completely honest and just give, I guess everyone that's watching or watching on replay or watching live right now, kind of like a look behind the scenes. Right now, like I just got up at super early, which I'm more than happy to do, right? And come and talk to you about Facebook ads at 7 o'clock here. I could still be in bed right now, but that's super cool. This is a wicked opportunity, and it gives me the opportunity, like live streaming, live video gives the opportunity, for people to kind of for me to get in front of people, help them out, solve as many problems as I can for them. And for me, if we just like go, all the way back, and if we're completely honest, for me, like, I love helping people, and I love, getting people to increase their skill level so they can benefit themselves in their own business. But for me, if we look at the long-term strategy, I'm like, cool, if I provide this value up front now, like there's a likelihood that people may get into my content eco stream and they may start following me and they may, like my brand. And potentially that's the very foundation of a relationship that I can start scaling over the next few months with many people online by providing lots of utility and value up front. And then eventually, like if they want to buy one of my products, not saying they have to, but if they want to buy one of my products, then it's definitely going to work favorably, because I feel like people definitely would rather buy something from someone they trust and they built a rapport with and they built a relationship with that's actually helped them and hasn't treated them like a walking wallet. And then maybe down the track, when I do try to sell something to people like that, oh cool, well, like I trust this guy, his free stuff's really good, so his paid stuff must be even better. And I think it's that trust at the end of the day. Like I trust that person, and I think that's a precursor to selling. But people don't have to buy my stuff, just like you don't have to buy any other consumers, any other businesses' products. But I feel like you'd rather do business with people that you enjoy doing or that you like, and that have actually made a conscious effort to invest in you, rather than treating like a walking wallet.
So it sounds like for you, live streaming isn't so much about necessarily pulling somebody in for a specific campaign as it is building relationships and building awareness that start that process or build that process of sort of trust and build the sense that you know what you're talking about, that you are a reliable person to work with, that they like your personality. And then it could be a campaign now, but it very likely could be down the road. It sounds like you're looking at it from a big picture point of view rather than I got to hit my target this month, so I'm going to jump on live video and that person's going to sell. I'm going to sell to tomorrow.
Absolutely, right? Absolutely. And full precursor, like that's just the way that I view it. It's just my opinion, and like other people may have different opinions, and just an opinion. Like there's no right, in my mind, there's no right or wrong way to do it. But if we look at the conventional funnel, if we will, of kind of using my brand as an example and what's happening with live streaming right now, like if we bring this into my funnel and we're imagining like awareness and just general kind of brand exposures up the top, and making some sales is down the bottom. So I'm trying to do these hand movements in the screen of my video. So we imagine awareness is like up the top and little like selling down the bottom. Like live stream would definitely be up the top, pulling people that have not heard of my brand before. I'm sure there's people that are watching right now. Well, I hope there's new people that are watching right now that haven't heard. They're like, oh, who's this dude that's speaking like 100 miles an hour that's got an Australian accent? And that's really cool, because it means I'm exposing my brand to new people, and that's super cool. And if they've gotten value from this chat, like and it's all in real time, it's all live, so there's no kind of there's no special edits or anything going on behind the scenes. If I can do that, I can get in front of people, I can help them, and that's super cool, because it means that in the future, then potentially I might be able to sell something to them. And then if I can't, then that's cool as well. But I feel like if you focus on, I'm going around in circles now, but I feel like if you focus on that value first, it just makes everyone's experience a lot better. And at the end of the day, like if you can help someone and you're not able to monetize that, then that's awesome because you've still been able to help someone. And that's cool.
Right. So how did you get into digital marketing and building funnels and things like that? I'm sure, when you were in high school or whatever, college, you weren't going, okay, so this Facebook advertising thing's going to be really big, and I'm going to build my funnels through Facebook advertising. So how did you become interested in that process? And then over time, obviously you've become really, really good at it. And, you're starting your focus on your media website and all that. So how did this whole process develop for you?
It's a really good question, Ross. So I've always whether the term nerd or geek, I feel like they're a little bit interchangeable. I think technically I would be considered more of a geek. Like I've always been a massive geek. And I've always been like seriously massive geek. I mean, you should see my office is just like, the cool thing about what I do now is that I've turned like what I do for a living. And I think this is the best thing, quick little life lesson for everyone. Like I feel like it's really cool if you're able, or for me anyway, it's been really cool for me to have a cross section between what I really enjoy, my geeky interests, and then being able to monetize that. And then I'm like living in this cross section right now, and it's awesome because I've got like all this really, really geeky stuff in my office, and I'm like, oh, this is so fun. My inner 13-year-old's just really excited. But yeah, dude, like I've just been a massive geek since I was a kid, and I remember, I think we go way back. I remember building websites in I can't even remember the name of the platform. It was a Microsoft. This is how long ago it was. I think I remember building websites on Windows 98 on my like cream like family computer or computer that had been handed down to my brother and I from my parents. And I remember building, I think Microsoft Web Page Builder. I can't remember the exact name of the software, but I was building websites, and that's what I was doing in my free time as like an 8-9-year-old. Like that's kind of weird. And this is like circa like that was 1998, 1999, still a while ago. And and that was trying to do it with dial-up internet as well. So that was just the whole nother.
That was when I had my top of the line 1 gig computer, I think.
Yeah.
My 1 gig hard drive, right?
Everyone had mad floppy disks.
Yeah.
Good times. You know, a floppy disk. I remember being really excited one day because when I learned how to download music legally when I was a kid. I remember getting really excited because I learned how to I could save one song onto a floppy disk, and I was excited that I could take that one song to other places. Except the only issue was I managed to save it onto the floppy disk, and then I couldn't, like, it just wouldn't play because the file formats wouldn't work on the other computer. So that was fun. But basically, super long story short, massive geek, and I've always really been into it. And in year 11, that kind of all followed me throughout high school. And in year 11, I won the digital media award for the year at the high school that I went to, which was really cool. And then in year 11 and year 12, my final years of school, I always thought I was really good at accounting and economics, and I really enjoyed them. And then I kind of decided at that young age that I was going to become an accountant, which I ended up doing. So when I went to college or university, and I ended up doing like I was doing a double degree in commerce and economics, and a double major in financial accounting and marketing, and I was doing business law and economics as well. And then I realized that I actually lived in the States for a while. So I lived in Vermont for a year of college, which was really, really cool. And I kind of realized when I was away that accounting wasn't really for me. It wasn't really conducive to my goals for the future. But you
seem a little high energy for accounting. I don't think I've ever met such a creative, high energy accountant before. No offense to any accountants.
No. Yeah,
but
of course.
It's a methodical process, and you seem like somebody who's an ideas person, and you're selling not just with your knowledge, but with your personality and your ability to build relationships. I would think you would kind of get frustrated if you were limited to one more narrow field. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense, and I appreciate that, and I'm really happy that I decided when I was living in the States, when I was in college in Vermont, that I was not going to be pursuing the accounting, but I was already so far in that I was like, well, I'm going to finish it. And as much as I hated that part of my degree, we go full circle. Having that that background has become, really, really helpful retrospectively, because I'm like, oh, I've now got all this knowledge. So when I was starting my company, I was doing all my own books and it was all 100% legit. And so that skill came in really handy, despite the fact that I thought I'd never
Right.
use it, which was kind of cool.
It's nice to be a marketer, particularly one who can record some nice results with sales, who also understands finance and accounting
absolutely,
and all that kind of stuff. It all comes in handy, and it's another way to have kind of an edge in the field, to be able to have that financial knowledge.
And I'm really grateful that as much as I hate it, I'm really grateful when I look back that I've got that background, because I definitely think you're right. Like, I definitely think, as much as I don't like to think that it does, I think it helps me, or just even the general understanding of how it all works is definitely helpful for when I'm working on campaigns or for running my business. So that's kind of like the whole nutshell story. And then I kind of got into doing Facebook ads around the age of 18, and this was back in the day. So I started my my stint on social media marketing, because I've always loved social media. I had a MySpace account back in 2003, and I've been on social since 2003. So it's been a while. I'm like young, or like I'm old now. I'm like, oh, it's so old, Paul. But I remember being 13, 14 on MySpace, and it was just, I was like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever. And I could like customize my MySpace page with HTML, and it's just like super cool. But then I kind of got my start with social media marketing in 2008, and that was with MySpace doing. I used to be an alternative musician, emo kind of looking dude, and long hair and straightened hair and all that kind of fun stuff. And we used to basically use both MySpace and Facebook. Facebook being, there was pretty much no ads back on Facebook back then, because it was pre-IPO and they hadn't even rolled out much of their ads platform. But we were getting unprecedented amount of free marketing and free traffic and free reach using organic MySpace and organic Facebook back in 2008. And that's where I saw the opportunity, and the people that I was working with, we saw the opportunity to kind of ditch all of our traditional marketing that we were using to promote shows and go all in on social and digital, because it was free and it was mapped to what everyone was using, and it just made sense, and it was free and it was effective and it worked. And ever since then, I was hooked, and the rest is kind of history.
Let's get into Facebook advertising a little bit, because I think a lot of the people who are watching this here on Blue Jeans or on Facebook Live probably have a Facebook page. They post from time to time. Some people maybe post every day, multiple times. Other people, when they have something that they want to share. But if you haven't really gotten under the hood with Facebook advertising, it can be a little bit intimidating, a little bit confusing. That your posts, except for live video, get very limited reach on a Facebook page. So talk about just a few of the basics that people should know if they're starting out with Facebook advertising, if they just want to make a decision, what is this and is it for me?
For sure. All right, so I'll go super, super basic. So if you are like total Facebook noob and you've never done Facebook ads before, and you've got a business page and you want to get more people interacting with your business, I think the first thing you need to do is just basically start with your goal. Okay, so work out whether your goal is to drive general awareness, work out whether your goal is to drive build more relationships with people that are already, involved with your business, or maybe your goal is to build email opt-ins, or maybe your goal is to work, actually sell stuff. If you've never done Facebook ads before, I'd probably recommend staying away from the maybe the first two. Like I would stay away from stay away from the second two and focus on just the awareness. So don't worry about selling, and don't worry about trying to build too strong a relationship with your ads just yet, because I feel like it's kind of a process you need to walk before. So you crawl before you can walk, right? And I think starting with that goal first is really important, and being able to, I think also having a decent amount of content that provides value, or some kind of, if you think of your content as a piece of marketing, which is technically what it is, despite the fact that you're helping people, you really need to have something really valuable that you can promote and use to drive awareness. And if you can do that, and that's, you're a complete noob, and that's probably where you want to start. And then, so you've got to have the content. And then the next step I'd really recommend doing is doing your research. And like, I don't like research. Well, I like research because of the results that it can bestow upon me, but I'm just like, oh, I want to get into it. Let's do it. But doing your research is super important because you've got to work out who's out there, and you've got to work out how many people you can potentially reach, and what their interests are, and how you're going to get in front of those people. So doing your research using Facebook Audience Insights which is a free tool by Facebook, is really, really important. And if you've never used Audience Insights before, I definitely recommend basically trying to build out an archetype of what your perfect customer looks like, geographic location, age, and also look at the type of pages that they might like on Facebook that are similar to your pages, or the page that you're promoting in your business. And the biggest tip I can give for doing audience insights research is to look to build an audience between like 300,000 and 3 million people. And then what you want to do is make sure that audience has a great amount of affinity. So you're looking for an affinity category, which you'll see on the right if you get into audience insights. People can replay this later and take notes, but you're basically looking to build the most amount of affinity with your potential audience within that size. And then you want to go out and start testing with a really small budget, say $5 a day, to build, start sending those that content out to people. And what you're essentially doing is sending your content out to an audience that you think is within the realms of your target market, and then you let Facebook do the rest of the heavy lifting. And there's a lot of other stuff you can do to decrease your average cost.
You can get all that information by looking at Facebook Insights.
So in terms of audience research, Facebook Insights is definitely where you want to go. So those are the two main things I would really, really focus on before even thinking about launching some ads. And then the rest, there's so much more that I could talk about, but I think that's the important thing you need to get started. And
so
then
you would start with that $5 boost a post thing. You would start boosting a post for $5.
I wouldn't even touch. I don't like boosting posts, mainly because you lose the control. This is just me, but I feel like you lose a lot of control when you boost posts. It's really easy.
So that doesn't give you the ability to bring those insights in then when you boost a post. Facebook just kind of.
Potentially, that's a lie. I've maybe boosted 2 posts in my life, and the last time I boosted the post was over a year ago. And that's just because I don't like the lack of control. Because if I'm going to be investing, my mindset on it is, if I'm going to be investing advertising dollars to get in front of my audience, I want to make sure I'm getting in front of the right people and not leaving any of it to chance. So I use Facebook's Power Editor to do all of my ads. And if Power Editors, if it seems a bit daunting, because it can be a bit daunting if you've never used it before, Facebook Ads Manager is a lot easier to use, but it's a lot more powerful than using the boost post method. Right.
And so for $5 a day, if you look at the insights, you get a sense of who you're targeting, what pages are similar, what the affinities are, all that kind of stuff, right? And you spend $5 a day, you can see an impact.
Well, definitely.
And that research.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, all other things being equal, I would say yes, definitely. But the thing is, the great thing about Facebook is that you can get kind of instant gratification, which is really cool. And you can also get the immediate results. But you can also be pretty much told within the space of 24 hours whether you're right or wrong. And that's why it's really cool to test, because, I'm like, I'm really good at what I do on Facebook ads. But even me, I always try to humble myself, because I'm like, this is why we test, right? I want to prove myself wrong, because I would rather test at $5 a day for like a week, drop $25 over 5 business days, and for my ads to perform absolutely terribly. Because what that allows me to then do is be like, all right, what was I wrong about? And then you go on and kind of like, sift through all of the stuff that you've done. Was my messaging wrong? Was my content wrong? Was my audience wrong? Was my bidding wrong? And it allows you to kind of improve your marketing message and improve the results that you're getting from it without wasting a lot of money up front. And then the flip side of that is, once you've worked out a method and a strategy to get really great results at a low price, then you can think about scaling it and increasing your budget, because you know what you're doing is actually working, and you have that kind of like confidence that you're not going to be throwing away your money, or just emptying your wallet and getting no return from it.
Right. Well, that's a terrific introduction for people who are starting out or trying to move from a basic level to the next level. And Rachel asks, she actually mentions here in the chat that she has had success, a lot of success with boosting, but only at the $5 or $10 for extra oomph level. But she asks a question that's interesting. She's asking on behalf of a friend, what role does dark social play in successful Facebook advertising strategy? I always hear Gary Vaynerchuk used to talk constantly about Facebook dark posts are the most, and I assume that's what she's referring to. I always hear him talking about, or at least I did about 6 months to a year ago. It's like Facebook dark posts are the best deal going for online advertising or something like that. So what is that, and what role does dark social play for people in successful Facebook advertising strategy?
So yeah, I mean, thank you for the question, Rachel. So basically, the process that I was just describing earlier is essentially would be considered dark advertising. And really, all that means is that it's just you're promoting content or you're promoting ads that don't show up on your organic newsfeed, essentially. So if you wanted to, I do a lot of split testing, so I'll test a lot of different variations of ads to work out which are going to net me the lowest results, right? So, for example, there's an article on my website called 7 Facebook Ad Hacks for Cheaper Clicks, and I've done a lot of split testing with that article, and I've split tested that article to maybe 4 or 5 different audiences. So I've used 4 or 5 different ad sets, and then inside each of those ad sets, there were 50 different variations of those same ads in those 5 different ad sets. So if we do the math, and I'm terrible at math, but what's that? 250? No, that's 2,550 times. No, I'm not going to do the math because I'm terrible at math. But there was a lot of ads. Let's just call it 250 ads, right?
Right.
Or 400. Let's call it 400 ads. And those 400 ads were all variations of the same ad. Granted, there were different headlines, different different colors in the images and different descriptions, but essentially they were all the same ads. So if you were to try and roll those ads out, organically through your normal Facebook page, my Facebook reach would just go down to the ground, and everyone would unlike my page and be like, "This guy's just spamming me," because I've just promoted all this stuff from my Facebook page. So doing dark advertising, doing dark social allows you to go and target and test heaps of different things without, clogging up people's news feeds. And when it doesn't work, you can just turn it off, which is really cool.
But in their news feed, does it appear natively, or does it appear as sort of a sidebar advertisement?
Sorry, say that one again.
The posts that you're doing this testing with, right?
Yep.
Or other posts that you pay for as kind of dark social posts, right? Are they showing up natively in followers' newsfeed, or are they showing up there's certain sidebar advertisements? I'll see little advertisements off to the side of the newsfeed sometimes as well. Where would those show up?
So all of the above. So you can basically tell Facebook where you want to distribute your content and your ads. So if you want to run your ads to Instagram and only target people on Instagram, then you can do that. If you want to run your ads to the mobile newsfeed, then you can do that. If you want to run your ads to people that only have Android devices and exclude your ads from anyone that has iOS devices, then you can do that. If you want them to be on the sidebar of the newsfeed, you can do that. You can also recycle and reuse organic posts that you've had on your Facebook wall in the past, and then distribute those posts and give them more reach as well if you wanted to do that too.
But they don't actually reappear on the wall another time or on the news
No, they
feed.
Don't. They just
on your
timeline. Timelines. That's correct.
Exactly. So Rachel mentions dark posts and dark social are different. Dark posts and dark social are different. Facebook dark posts, definitely a tactic of using newsfeed style ads that do not actually get published to the newsfeed of your page, and very effective when targeting mobile. So when I hear dark social or dark posts, at least I'm thinking dark SEO, somebody maybe is trying to, game the system in a way that's not legitimate. Dark posts or what Gary Vaynerchuk talks about when he talks about using Facebook dark ads or whatever, that's all legitimate. It's just doing that research behind the scenes and segmenting your audience and targeting specific people. It's not like SEO, doing dark SEO, which will get you banned from Google rankings. But
Yeah, no, it's not like that at all.
do you know what Rachel means by dark social on Facebook?
I'm not sure. Like, I do understand, but maybe we have different ways of talking about it. But essentially, like, the way that I look at doing dark posts, I don't even use that term. I just call it advertising. Advertising in people's feeds versus promoting organic content through your actual
Right.
Facebook page. But then there's a cross section where you can do both if you wanted to. I think so. I'm just going to read what Rachel just said. New ways. So Rachel's saying, I see it as upcycling content and finding new ways to present information in new ways. Cool. I agree with that.
So
So
go ahead.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So basically, I mean, whichever way you slice it, like you can test if you wanted to test your content organically on your Facebook page, and you could do that. But for me, like, running as many ads as I can and split testing those ads across different news and testing different placements and where those ads are going to align is a really, really great time and nets me wicked results.
Right. That's awesome. Talk about, in terms of building digital funnels in general, digital marketing funnels, what are the platforms that you prefer to use? Obviously, it's going to depend on where the target audience is and all that. But when you talk about which platforms across the spectrum of the work that you do, you tend to spend the most time and see the most, return on investment of that time as well as money. Where do you tend to put your focus besides Facebook?
So I'm all in on Facebook. As a platform to drive paid traffic at an effective cost with the most control, and to get in front of the most people with the most effective amount of data and research, available on any platform. In my opinion, maybe that's fact, maybe that's not, but in my experience, I'm not able to do as targeted and as much audience research than what I can on Facebook. So Facebook's definitely number one. The second one would definitely be email marketing platforms, and I use an email marketing platform called ConvertKit. I love ConvertKit, but I think email marketing is not really given. A lot of people that love email marketing, that know what's up, love it and are massive proponents for it because people know how powerful it is. But I honestly think that email marketing is still a really, really powerful tool that doesn't get utilized as much as it could be.
Right. It doesn't have the open rates that it maybe did 20 years ago, but it still is a great way to reach people and probably produces in some ways more than many of the other platforms that people spend their time on, right?
Absolutely. And if we circle back to what we were talking about before, if you're good at email marketing and the way in which you go about doing your email marketing is focused on providing utility and helping people solve their problems, whatever they are related to your business, then it's a really, really effective way to help you nurture and build that relationship and build those points of contact with your audience over an extended period of time. So to take this everything full circle, if we were to bring people from this live stream and they were to go to my website and sign up to one of my lead magnets, they would then start a process of email marketing series that may go anywhere between, depending on what they do and how they interact with it, can go anywhere between 30 and 100 and something days. And over that time period, I'm sending out valuable content, heavy and focused, or emails that are value or content and value heavy. And as I'm doing that, it's helping people further and further solve their problems, whether it's related to Facebook ads or digital marketing. And that allows me to build that relationship and make it more intimate, and make it more one-on-one, as opposed to doing a live stream like this where I'm talking to a lot of people at once.
Is there sort of a sweet spot between bombarding your list with too many emails and going quiet for too long? Like, have you found that there's a certain amount of emails, say, you could send per month or per week, or what is your, have you kind of been able to calibrate that, or is it just something that depends on the audience and the situation and the level of interest and all sorts of different factors?
Yeah, I think there's always going to be so many different variables that come into play. When you basically you're trying to work out how many emails you should send and how frequently you should be sending them. But I think it all comes down to learning what works for your audience and what works for your business. And just like I say with everything, just testing and improving and iterating and optimizing and working out what's best, what works best for you. And I know that answer is kind of it kind of toes the line. It's not really giving you exactly, it's not giving people like a blueprint, because everyone's like, we need a blueprint. Like, what do I need to do? And I honestly think like you just need to put in a bit of work. And, if you're not sure, start with maybe one a week, and don't make it a newsletter. Make it like an engaging email that's focused on selling a problem. And if you want to get really good at it, make your email marketing, split your email marketing up into different segments or different buckets. And within each of those buckets, drop different members of your audience into those buckets. And by doing that, you then know, let's say, for example, hypothetically, if I've got 3 buckets, right, and maybe one of the buckets is where I'm teaching people how to drive free traffic to their business using Facebook, organic Facebook, and then another bucket is teaching people how to drive traffic to their website and generate leads using Facebook ads, and then I've got another bucket that's teaching people how to use, fully very comprehensive digital marketing funnels, which tie everything in together to essentially monetize your audience without pissing them off at the same time. So those are my 3 buckets. And I know that people, based on their previous actions to my website, my content, my lead magnets, are falling into those different buckets. Then I know that I can talk to, or that I need to talk to one audience in a specific way and send them certain content, as what I do with my other audiences. So I wouldn't go and send comprehensive information about building a digital marketing funnel, software, tools, platforms, shortcuts, cheats, cheat sheets. I wouldn't send that content to my bucket that's only looking to learn how to use Facebook for free to drive traffic. So that makes me more relevant to each individual audience, which makes my marketing and my messaging more important, or I guess more relevant to each of those audiences, which will increase my open rates.
This is amazing advice. Like, my head is working right now. I could send different stuff to people who are basically interested in live streaming from a broadcasting standpoint versus people who are interested in it from a marketing standpoint.
That's 100%
and they're going to have
correct,
totally different, like, the broadcasting people want to know about the latest microphone and the latest camera and lighting and background, and marketers want to know what converts, right?
Exactly. Because you're so right. So you've already just then let's use this example and take it full circle, right? So you've got 2 specific audiences that you've outlined, right? You've got the presenter audience, like you said, that's interested in the tech, and they're interested in they might be, what kind of widescreen webcam is Paul using right now? They might be interested in the software, like what's this Blue Jeans network that you're broadcasting this through? How are you connecting that to Facebook Live? Can you do it to Periscope? Whatever. But that's all informations and questions and challenges that audience is having, and that audience is having completely different challenges to your other audience, which may be marketers like me, that may want to learn, okay, cool, leave all the tech stuff for someone else that's going to set that up. How can I define an ROI, and how can I use live streaming, or how can I sell the concept of live streaming to my clients to help them sell their stuff? Or how can I use live streaming for, the business that I work for in the same way to sell stuff, or whatever your goals are? And then those are two different types of audiences. And then you could go and create content for those different types of audiences, different blogs, videos, tutorials, whatever. You can have a content library on your website for both different categories. Let's say you've got 10 articles that speak to those different audiences specifically and separately. And then who's in those different audiences. So you can then go use audience insights on Facebook to research, okay, well, I need to work out what kind of people will be in my, live stream broadcaster archetype audience, and what pages would they like, and how old are they, and where did they live, and what did they look like? Build that archetype, and then run your ads that are promoting all those different articles, as a split test to that audience to see what works and what converts the lowest, the lowest cost. And you do exactly the same thing for the marketers. And then you've segmented your audience specifically and relevantly. And that's the power of it. And that's where stuff gets really, really fun. And then your audience will thank you for it, because you're being so relevant to them. So I just went on a super big rant, but yeah.
Just want to give a quick shout out and say thanks to everybody watching on Facebook Live. If you do have a question for Paul, feel free to come over. You can join us here on Blue Jeans very easily. Just go to rossbrand.live, and that'll take you in. You can enter your question in the chat. Just a quick feedback from Beauty Bubble mentions that she's listening and poking around the ad campaign thing on Facebook, and you're to blame. So she's doing that right now.
You're welcome.
Says you are amazing. So that's awesome feedback.
Appreciate that.
Rachel asks a good question here. She says, any tips for growing your subscriber list? Obviously, before you can segment and target people, you actually have to get people onto that list.
Correct. Correct.
A few tips on how you would go about doing that.
Sure thing. So let's just keep things on the same train of thought and example that we've been using already. So let's use your live stream broadcaster example, because I think everyone can understand that. Everything that I've said about doing your audience research and knowing who your customer is and really having a clear idea, you need to know all of those things. And then knowing all of those things, you should also, by definition, know what challenges and what problems and what issues does that audience have. Okay, so if we use a live stream broadcaster example again, so challenges and problems just off the top of my head for that audience may be, like you said earlier, Ross, like what tech do you use? What microphone do you use? Do I get a Blue Yeti microphone, or do I have to, a Blue Yeti micro USB microphone, or do I go and get a massive, a panel that plugs in? I don't even know all the tech stuff, but do I have to go and get a massive soundboard and to get a really good studio quality? Where do I buy my boom arm from? What is a boom arm? All that kind of stuff. So that kind of tech related stuff, specifically for people that are pre-live streaming or that are trying to increase their level of professionalism or their level of quality of what they're doing, those are challenges, problems, and issues that they need the answers to. And if you're trying to sell something to them eventually, then you definitely want to be solving those problems in the best way that you can before you eventually sell whatever you're trying to sell to them. And a great way to build your list then for that audience would be building a specific type of lead magnet to build your opt-ins based on solving those problems that that audience has. So something you could create to solve that problem for the live stream broadcaster audience in a lead magnet form could be a cheat sheet or like an infographics, like 10 steps to go from 0 to 100 in live streaming in less than 24 hours. And it could be a blueprint. So exactly everything you need to do in order to get set up, or how to start live streaming 101, the cheat sheet, or how to start live streaming cheat sheet. And you're going to be offering that lead magnet to your audience. And I feel like, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Ross, because this sounds like your audience and not mine, but I feel like if you were to present that type of value-orientated piece of content to your audience that's looking to learn more about live broadcasting and live streaming, that's something that they would be willing to give you their email address for. Would you say that's correct?
Yeah, definitely. And then for the marketer side, you could do like 10 types of shows or 10 types of live broadcasts that convert or that lead to sales or that 100%. That build your list or whatever it is. 100%. You focus on that side of it. And then what I'm seeing here too is this kind of guides how you do all your content marketing as well. Like even your blog down to your blog categories, you now have your blog categories sort of segmented in the same way. So 100%. When you bring somebody in with a blog post on the broadcast side, then they can click broadcast and they get your past articles that are targeted to 100%. Them. Your marketers can click marketing or live streaming for marketing or 100%. Whatever. And, you can obviously have multiple.
Well, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like the whole game plan can really play out across platforms, right?
100%. And then you're layering everything. So you're layering those different levels of relevance. So if you're bringing people into the very top of your funnel with general awareness, and they're just reading how to get started with live streaming in less than 20 minutes, it's a blog article, right? And then you've got, six tips to get started with broadcasting in less than 20 minutes. Let's live broadcasting less than 20 minutes. So that's your blog article. And then if you built like that cheat sheet or that lead magnet that we were talking about earlier, you could then embed that lead magnet into that article so that people can click through to that. Because I feel like people that are reading that article, that are interested and click through to read that article, are going to be interested definitely in that lead magnet because they're so relevant to each other. And that's where you can start getting those opt-ins and building that audience. And then the best thing is if you've layered all the content of your website and you've started with what your audience's problems and challenges first are, everything's layered, everything's relevant specifically to those different audiences, so that when people join your list through those lead magnets, you can then recycle your content that's within that same category to those specific buckets, so that you're only speaking and providing relevant content to your specific audiences. And that's what makes it super powerful. And definitely another reason why you should do your planning and understand problems that you're solving and who you're solving them for before you even start about ads.
Now, when it comes to, delivering your content, obviously your website, right, is your hub, right? You try and drive traffic back to your website with your social posts. That's you kind of follow that philosophy.
Absolutely. And I also subscribe to the notion that you shouldn't rely on building. I think building social profiles and building large followings is, definitely important, because, you want to build your tribe. But I don't think that relying on any one social network is a good idea at all, because, if Facebook was not that this probably won't happen, but, let's say Facebook died in the next 2 years and you've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars building 1 million likes on real likes on your Facebook page. And then in 2 years time, no one's using Facebook and you've got 1 million likes. What's that done for you? Well, it's nothing. It might have been good back in the day, but there's no future return that you can make from that asset, because it's not an asset. It's just numbers that you can't control.
There's no way to monetize those blab props, right?
Exactly, right? Exactly. So you definitely always want to be bringing people into your own ecosystem. Use the other platforms that are out there, but don't rely on them, because that's, you don't want to go and build a house on rented land. And let's say you went and built a house on rented land. I think I'm paraphrasing Gary. I think I heard this, we say this a while back, but if you build a house on rented land, cool, you've just invested, let's say, $400,000 in building a house. But if you're only renting the land, the landlord's like, yo, sorry, bro, I'm just gonna take this land back. I don't care.
No houses on this place, right?
Exactly. So you have the kind of the rug swept out from underneath you. And if you haven't siphoned that audience onto your own platform, whether it's your email marketing list or, onto your website, then, if shit hits the fan, you're not going to have a very good time. And that's not a really good way to build a longevity with your marketing, in my opinion.
Right. So that said, in order to raise awareness about what you're doing, will you take a blog post and either repost it or repurpose it, rewrite it, whatever, and put it on LinkedIn or put it on Medium? Or do you focus on just using social platforms sort of to tease what you're doing and then draw people through the link back to your website?
With me these days, I've gotten to the point where I'm really just going all in on Facebook and a little bit of Instagram and Snapchat, and not really focusing too much on other networks. And the reason that that's been a conscious effort and a conscious decision, because I'm across all the majority of the platforms, but I realized that for me anyway, it works a lot better for my business and for my goals if I focus in and zero on one thing that works or two things that works, rather than spreading myself too thin. So for me, the process of promoting content, and this is not for everyone, but for me, I get the highest return from promoting content using Facebook ads and doing a bunch of split testing and a bunch of research to work out who my perfect customer is, and what how to perfectly target them on specific placements, whether it's Instagram, desktop, or mobile. And once I've worked that out, rolling out the best iteration of that testing, and then increasing my budget to get the results at the lowest cost possible using Facebook ads. So that's kind of the doctrine that I subscribe to, mainly because it saves me the most time and it gets me the highest amount of results at the lowest cost.
Now, if I may have missed it, but you didn't mention Twitter in there, right? When you were talking about
I did not mention Twitter. It's not to say I'm not active on Twitter.
Right. I mean, I think there's a certain sense, right? If you're in business, you need to keep up appearances on Twitter at least, right? Because that's kind of your greeting card, right? You can find me on Twitter. You can reach out to me on Twitter. It's an easy way for people to know where you are, and then they can read your bio there, and they can go onto your website and so forth. But I find that beyond sending people messages like, hey, catch my show tonight, and tagging them in a photo or tagging them in a message, or the exchanges that go on during Twitter chats, which are basically educational and social and enjoyable for their own purpose, I don't get that much return on Twitter. If I want somebody to read a blog post or something, I'm just putting it out there. I don't think I'm bad at using Twitter or anything, but you're just not getting a lot of click throughs and a lot of.
I think therein lies the problem, though, right? Because
Mhm.
I completely agree, and I use
Right.
Twitter for the same reasons. And I'm in Australia, and Twitter's not as big in Australia as what it is in the States. And that was when I visited last year. Earlier this year, sorry, back in March. I mean, working in the space that I work in, like I understand conventionally that it's quite large over there, but compared to Australia, it's out of control. But that's not even. Yeah, I feel like it's a shadow of its former self, and I feel like its main problem is what you just described there, because I do the same thing. That there is not much engagement, there is so much noise, and everyone's basically just like, I feel like it's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy in the sense that like everyone's just trying to put stuff out to get noticed, and I'm guilty of this too, right? So I'm not pointing any fingers, but everyone's just promoting content, and then there's really no real interaction or real engagement. And if everyone's just promoting and there's no actual real connecting, then what are you doing there? And that's one of the other reasons why, I still do it, because I get a marginal return from my time and investment in that platform, but nowhere near like different worlds of return compared to what I do with Facebook. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. One being that, that Twitter with their lack of introduction and their lack of being able to control the distribution of their content when all the competitors were restricting reach, they were just letting it be real time, which was really great. But then there became an oversupply of information and content, and then like marketers got on there, and everyone else that wants to sell stuff got on there, and they realized that the more you kind of make noise, the more you can potentially be heard, and that just leads to a lot more noise. And I think that's therein lies a bit of the main issue with Twitter, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to hear you say that, because I feel the exact same way about Twitter, and it's become so scheduled and so automated, and I think to a good degree, scheduling is fine as scheduling posts, right? Because that could ideally free you up to engage more, right? In theory.
I do it.
But there's so many automated responses and automated ways people are adding you to lists, and it just makes the platform so busy and so noisy that unless I'm spending an hour focused on a Twitter chat, or I need to reach people because of something and I'm sending them a message that I'm tagging them in, I just don't see the engagement that I used to see on Twitter. And I think it's interesting. That's why I think it's really interesting that you didn't mention Twitter at where you're spending your time. And I know that depends on what your products are and what your services are and all sorts of variety of things. But I think it also reflects a wider recognition of what's going on just in general in social media.
Absolutely, and I think also the other thing that's going on, I mean, maybe with all social or with Twitter in that example, and kind of what I was talking about earlier is we share the same opinion. We haven't spoken about this before, but we share the same opinion because it's kind of it's a subtle nuance of using the platform. You know what I mean? Like that's what's going on, and we are defaulting to thinking like that. And if we're thinking like that, chances are a bunch of other people are thinking like that. If that's the overarching attitude that people are taking to the platform, like I said before, it's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. If that's how people think the platform is, then that's how the platform's going to be, and therefore, like, no one really wins, despite the fact that people want to be able to engage with people more, and they want it to be like 2009 Twitter, and they want it to be, like a town hall again. But I feel like that was the fact that Twitter didn't innovate with their algorithm and with the way in which they control the distribution of noise in their platform, I think has really just come to hurt them and kind of resulted in what we're seeing play out right now.
Yeah, and Beauty Bubble hits a key point. However, I must say it's my only digital footprint that bolsters social proof. And while it may not be other people's that they feel it's their only one, it still is. I mean, Carlos makes the point about it being sort of it's a splatter of a resume, including interests and some personality. And that's what I'm saying. as much as everybody says followers don't matter, what's the first thing you look at when somebody new follows you or sends you a message? The first thing you notice is how many followers. So it's almost like I say, it's almost like a requirement to have some followers, to have your resume, sort of your bio telling what you do and what you're about and how people can connect with you and so forth. But in terms of the actual results, I think it's much harder than it used to be. And Carlos Phoenix mentions that, Twitter's kind of going towards the multimedia thing, and that could be, could live video, could Apple TV, could all these different type of things. Live events is another place where there is engagement, like live video, like the NFL football games on Twitter, the debates on Twitter. Now they're going to more actually produced TV programs streaming live on Twitter. And so all that opens up opportunities for conversation and engagement, at least until people figure out how to automate and game that as well.
I feel you.
So before we, as we're about to wrap up, what's the one thing that you see that most people could do better or could do that they aren't doing to up their game in terms of digital marketing?
I think just it's gonna sound like cliche advice, but just do a Nike, just do it. Like,
right.
Just do it. Just like, and if you're just get out of your own head and just do it. And I know that, like, and I'm like, big thing that I try and work on, or have been trying to work on with myself personally, recently, is just getting over this kind of, I think everyone struggles with this, but just getting over this internal need for perfectionism, and just doing it and just putting it out there and just doing it. I think that's the most important advice that I can give. And then if you don't know what you're doing, I mean, I don't know how much coffees are pretty expensive in Australia, but in Australia, you pay, I'm not even joking, you pay like $4 to $5 for like a regular coffee, which is it's really astronomically expensive. But I mean, let's call it, if you have 2 coffees a day, right? They're average $2.50 each in the States, depending on where you're living. Like, if you can afford to like forego those 2 coffees a day, for a few weeks, just to give you a bit of extra budget to play with, $5 a day, to start playing with ads and experimenting. And I think that'd be a really good investment in your time. Not that I'm trying to make you do a Facebook ads, but if you're trying to get results, I'm getting nothing from Facebook being like, buy their media. I'm getting nothing. But I think that if you're trying to get better, then the best way to get better is by doing. And you can learn, you can read, and you can go and consume my content, other people's content, watch as many YouTube videos as you want, like whatever. But I think the most important thing is for you to go and do it, and just to literally not put your money where your mouth is, but just throw a bit of money at it and see what happens and see what works, and audit yourself and audit the results and then improve. And then within that, just like anything, you'll learn, you'll get better, and then you'll be like, oh, I can do this way faster now. It's not so much of a massive hurdle and learning curve. And then you can up your skills and potentially start getting some pretty cool results.
Well, I learned a ton in this past hour, and I think I'm coming away really motivated to try some different things out on Facebook and email marketing and list building. So thank you so much, Paul.
No worries. Thanks for having me, Ross.
Yeah, at Paul Ramondo and paulramondo.com. Yeah, exactly. It always comes back to that, doesn't it? And how else? How would you like people to reach out to you if somebody wants to work with you or follow up? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, just either you can check out my website, which is paulramondo.com, and best way to reach out to me is just to flick me an email, and it's just paul@paulramondo.com, and I will we're gonna have notes for this. I'll make sure I comment on all the links and stuff and all of the stuff that's been posted out. But that's the easiest way to get in touch with me and reach me. And if you can't do that, just go through my Twitter account, and then you'll be able to get through to my website and work it out from there.
Through Twitter, right? Yeah. So thanks so much. We'll be back Monday with another. Thanks so much. We'll be back Monday with another episode. And Thursday night we have a special episode, 7 p.m. Eastern. Ask the Expert. Chris Strub is joining me, talking about using social media and live video for nonprofits, and in his travels around, a great Snapchat storyteller. Looking forward to talking to Chris on Ask the Expert. When I put that name together, I didn't think about how difficult that is to say quickly. Ask the Expert. Anyway, Thanks to everybody joining us on Facebook Live and here on Blue Jeans. And thanks to Paul Ramondo. Have a great night, everybody.
Thanks for having me, guys. See you later. Peace.